Let's talk a little bit about politics, because we live in a stage, or it's always been like that, where we have two different sports teams, right? We got Democrats and we got the Republicans. And the whole idea is whenever the Republicans are in charge or in power, then we hate the Republicans. When the Democrats are in power, then we hate the Democrats. But it's like, what the hell ever happened to being unified and standing behind an idea? For example, standing behind Trump. On the State of the Union address, nobody was clapping, or nobody from the Democrat side was clapping. And it was really embarrassing because he said some good stuff. He gave good reason why everybody should clap, but nobody did. It's crazy. And now we got this Ilhan Omar. She's like so openly anti-Americans, but yet she still gets people to clap over what she's doing. It's really insane. She get the girl pass. Like, if you're a girl, you get away with a lot. But in any case, let's take a look at this video by the Black conservative talking more about it. My name is Noel here on Verbal on Live. Hopefully you enjoyed this stream enough to give it a like. All right, so give it a like before you go anywhere. With that said, let's take a look.
We had lunch with him earlier today, but we'll wait and see. You never know. If the president sees somebody, someone catches his eye, and he starts.
Immigration and enforcement and DHS funding. I saw an email thread last night where you shook the president's hand. I believe it was on the way in, and it suggested that you were the only Democrat who did. Is that true?
I do believe that's true. And now for me, I'm not going to yell or do that. Again, regardless who the president is, I think that's been lost now here for our nation to do that. So for me, yes, I shook his hand, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in, and I'm always going to do that, for sure.
So the New York Times wrote.
The rest of people in my party would stand up and clap for. I clapped with a lot of those things that it seemed like others. Like, I stood up and I clapped to recognize the family that lost their daughter, the Ukrainian girl that was stabbed to death, in North Carolina. And I stood up and I clapped.
This guy is now becoming the #1 hated Democrat, only because he is doing what makes sense, just using common sense, and it's a problem to the Democrats.
That political prisoner from Venezuela, how you can't celebrate those kinds of things. And now I also celebrated all the veterans that were in the audience as well, too. And even more the political things like Erica Kirk. I stood up and I clapped for her as well, too. Now, here, can't we just be more kind to a widow? I mean, we just shouldn't be that long ago that a widow, with young children has her husband murdered, how we can't just acknowledge that as well, too. Wow. Why people would attack her, whether the left or the right either. So I'm always going to stand up and clap for things that I agreed with in, like striking the Iranian, sites now for me. I never worry about who's standing up or clapping. If I see it, I'm going to. If I don't agree with it or whatever, I'm certainly not going to yell and scream.
Making common sense. It's not two sports teams. It's one country, and we got to stand behind that country.
And disrupt the whole thing.
Boy. So we got to talk about John Fetterman, who is getting a whole lot of backlash from the far left because of the latest controversy involving him shaking the president's hand while wearing a suit at the State of the Union address. Yes, leftists are losing their minds over John Fetterman wearing a suit and shaking President Trump's hand during the State of.
And shout out to Fetterman for wearing the suit. It is difficult for him to do those basic things. And he already said it. It is difficult for him, given that he got some disabilities and shit.
The Union address. Take a look.
To me, that it looked so unserious. It looked so stupid. Like, what a joke of a country that the pedophile war criminal president is walking up the aisle and you have these Republican sycophants slurping his ball sweat desperately trying to get pictures so they can post it on their shitty social media. Okay. Also, fuck John Fetterman. He was shaking Trump's hand at the beginning, and he also wore a suit, which by my count is only.
You know what? Haters will hate. And hopefully more and more people are waking up to the truth. All right? That we're trying to figure this thing out together. The Democrats are not the together party. They're just helping destroy it even more.
The second time he's ever worn a suit, because he wore it for when Netanyahu was in town because he loves war criminals, and now he wears it for Trump. He also loves pedophiles who are also war criminals. So hate that guy. He's Diet MAGA. He's the definition of Diet MAGA.
I don't care who the president is. Don't yell and disrupt that. It's like you really should respect the office. The office. You don't have to like the occupant.
That was Senator John Fetterman, who ever since he had his stroke almost died. You know, he's not right in the head. He shouldn't be in office. But what he says is what a lot of people say. You need to respect the office. And I beg to differ. I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'm an old guy. I've seen a lot of presidents. Donald Trump is the first president, by far, the first president who has not respected the office of the presidency.
God bless Trump.
You know, in 2016, people kept telling me, oh, he'll change once he gets into office. And that's been true of every other president over my lifetime. They do change.
So we should celebrate this one particular president who's showing real people, the basic people, that this is all a lie. They're lying to us.
Try to be more dignified. They do measure their language. Donald Trump has done none of that. He's willfully dragged the office of the presidency down to his own debased, corrupt level. How can you respect the office of the presidency when the person in that office?
And that's the problem with intellectuals. Talking about this highbrow, these elites, you know, you got to stay at that elite level, even though they're stealing and breaking apart our country. So thank God for Trump.
Doesn't respect the office of the presidency.
Yeah. So with that being said, despite the backlash that John Fetterman is getting for, again, wearing a suit and shaking the president's hand, right, showing respect to the president of the United States, he went to CNN and basically told this CNN anchor why is it that he didn't like the stunt that Democrats like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib pulled during the president's speech. As he was, again, giving a speech, they were boo-hoo-wine and crying, heckling him, making a clown show out of the Democrat Party. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Fetterman, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be back.
Why did you think it was important to shake President Trump's hand?
Well, of course, that's the president. You don't have to agree with everything. You can be in a different party. You know, I think that's just basic respect and courtesy, you know, whether it's for the office or whether it's just kind of, I mean, I can't think we can get to the place where, I mean, the State of the Union can't turn into like the Springer Show.
What kind of question is that? I mean, seriously, why did you shake the president's hand? This is CNN, folks, right? This is journalism. Why did you shake the president's hand? Amazing. That's where our politics is currently at right now, right? Where CNN feels like the first question she should ask a senator about the State of the Union address is, why did you shake the president's hand? Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What about what the president talked about? What about those topics? What was a lie? What was true? How is this country improving thanks to Trump? Or what does he need to change to make it better?
Do you think your colleagues, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, conducted themselves the right way by that metric?
I'm saying I just disagree with that. It's not my, I'm not going to criticize it, but I'm going to say that's just not something I choose. And I think I walked around and I realized that half my colleagues were gone. And now if they want to boycott it, that's their choice. But I think overall, I don't see that coming back to, I remember back in 2009 when, I forget his name, Joe Wilson, you know, yelled. I mean, that was really provocative and shocking to people. And that had bipartisan, they condemned that. And now here it's just part of the part of the now, where it's just kind of like here it is. So I think something's lost when if that becomes like the new normal.
Do you think President Trump is responsible for that new normal?
No.
I think we're all part of it too, and I do think we have to find a way. If we can be in the same room, we can disagree on these things. You don't have to sign off on everything. You don't have to agree with everything. And now, if I hear something that I agree with or I like that, hey, I'm going to stand up and clap for those things. And I think, and if someone's angry that I shook the president's hand as he walked in, that's I think that's on them. And I think some of the people that were angry that I did that, they didn't really have a problem when Mandami visited with the White House too. So, like, if we refuse to talk to the other side, I mean, that's the only one that really loses. That's America.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I find the question here from Casey Hunt just to be so funny, right? Do you think that President Trump is a part of the new normal, right? Why is it that you have people heckling at the State of the Union address?
And you know what's crazy? How obvious is that the mainstream media is part of a Democratic wing. They are part of their constituents. All they do is just fight as hard as possible for the Democratic Party. That's really crazy.
Right? Openly disrespecting the president. Well, I mean, Nancy Pelosi was the one that ripped up President Trump's State of the Union.
And she should have went to jail over that because that's illegal. It's nice that we're holding these politicians accountable now that Trump is in office. It's just crazy that he's not afraid to go up against the media wing of the Democratic Party.
Speech, right? She's the one that did that.
Propaganda.
I think the Democrats are part of the reason why this is the new normal. But I do believe that Fetterman made a pretty fascinating point here about the hypocrisy of the criticism that he's currently getting from the far left for shaking the president's hand. But yet these are the same people who did not have that same level of criticism for Zohran Mamdani, right? Who visited the White House, right? And was apparently very chummy with the president of the United States. They made all type of excuses, okay? They did a whole bunch of mental gymnastics in order to rationalize Mamdani meeting with the president in the White House. They basically said that Mamdani was playing 5D chess against Trump, that he was playing Trump, right? That he was using Trump. And again, they rationalized that, right? They were totally fine with what Mamdani did, okay? But when Fetterman shakes the president's hand, okay, wears a suit to the State of the Union address out of respect, they're boo-hoo-wine and crying. It's a betrayal, right? It's just fascinating how that works. I think that's actually a very, very, very interesting point from John Fetterman.
You know, I used to think that the media were the ones holding the president accountable and really fighting one-on-one with any president. And now they're so obviously just anti-Trump, period. What does that say about the media?
The difference between the response to Mamdani visiting the White House versus John Fetterman shaking the president's hand. And let's be real, Mamdani has openly said a bunch of times that him and the president still talk. And the president has indicated multiple times that him and Mamdani still kind of talk, right? So, you know, there's a relationship there. And for whatever reason, Mamdani doesn't get the same backlash for his relationship with the president. And I don't think that John Fetterman's relationship with President Trump is at the same kind of level as Mamdani. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It just kind of seems as if, you know, John Fetterman's the type of guy where he's like, look, I'm just not going to openly disrespect the president. I'm not going to disagree with everything that the president, you know, does just because, you know, he's Trump. I got my own mind, right?
Propaganda.
John Fetterman said, I'm an independent thinker. He's still a Democrat. That's the crazy part about it. Like, he's still a Democrat. Okay. And I mean, I feel like I disagree with John Fetterman on most of his positions, but I do respect the fact that he doesn't just disagree with the president just to disagree with him. Right?
And I'm glad that he has the balls to say something or to act independently. He's not afraid of getting canceled by the Democratic Party. He just says it and does what's right or he feels is right.
He doesn't just hate the president to hate the president. And that's what got exposed by President Trump at the State of the Union about Democrats when he said, hey, you know, stand up if you want to protect American citizens over illegals, right? If you want to put Americans first over illegals, and Democrats didn't do it. What was exposed was the fact that, well, these people just hate Trump, right? Whatever Trump is for, they're against. And Fetterman's not like that. And that's why they hate him, right? That's why they hate him. So again, that is a fascinating point that John Fetterman brought up there. The difference between the backlash that he's receiving versus the reaction to Mandami visiting the White House.
Some people were surprised you wore a suit and tie.
I'm not sure why that's news. Yes, I do. I do dress like a slob, but I mean, for me, I'm gonna respect the event. Respect that's the dress code, of course. So so for me, it was an opportunity to hear these things, and you know, I think there was enough there that I could say, hey, I want to acknowledge that I think that's a good thing.
You obviously have spoken with President Trump. You met with him in the past. What was the last time you spoke to him privately?
Last year?
No, I mean, it's just one of the things that was perhaps might make unique amongst the Democrats. I supported the Iranian strike last year, and I think every single senator in this agrees that we can never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. And if we all agree with that, you know, I think harsh language won't be the solution. And now we've all discovered that a treaty or those kind of negotiations were unsuccessful. So the one thing that really did matter, and I think was impactful, was those kinetic kinds of strikes. And now here we are, might be again, where now they have another issue in that those missiles that they have, and now China is selling those hypersonic missiles there. That's outrageous. That's effectively the Chinese are selling that technology that would be aimed right at American ships, and I'll call and hold them accountable for that.
So would you urge President Trump to strike Iran in the interest of regime change there?
Well, I do think if you can, I mean, Iran absolutely wants to acquire a nuclear bomb, and Iran has done, they built up Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthis. So clearly, and now Iran executed tens of thousands.
He makes more sense than AOC. AOC should pick up a book and learn like this.
Thousands of their young people, and now the brutality for that. So, you know, Iran and that regime, the war is never about the Iranian people. Actually, their war was also against Iranian people. But for me, it's about the regime. And now here it's teetering. And now here we are. So that's why I would not vote for the Iranian powers resolution, because the president will need to have the flexibility for these kinds of targeted attacks.
Fair enough. Let's turn to the midterm elections.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that, right? This CNN anchor seems to not like the fact that John Fetterman actually agrees with the president on some things, that he's not just Trump.
Propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. She got problems. All right, let me finish this up real quick. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best setup for my camera here, which I'm all over the place. By the way, if you enjoyed the video so far, give it a thumbs up. I'm trying to do this every day, bring up the latest news and talk about it, give you guys my opinion, and get some feedback. You guys let me know what you think about this whole situation, about the mainstream media being part of the Democratic Party, being the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. It's crazy. And that's where we're at. The left against the right, or Democrat versus Republicans. Let me play around with the camera real quick. I have a feeling that it's going to fall to the ground. It's going to crash. And I don't know if I'm going to get this to work. My camera is posted on top of the monitor, so if it falls, it's going to crash. Let me go the other way. I'm more center there. The only problem is the video that I'm going to be commenting on will block my face unless I move more this way. There you go. EIT. So then I could just talk like this. And let's go with that for now. But let me know, what do you think about this whole setup? Is it going to work? This is my, what's it called? Solution to my disability. All right. Most disabilities in America, in the world, don't have a solution. So doctors just say, figure it out yourself. You try whatever you want to try for you, because I'm all out of ideas. I think, personally, it's because doctors have a license and they don't want to lose their license, or they don't want to have a bad reputation. So not to lose the license, they don't really recommend anything that's not recommended by other doctors who are licensed. So they just say whatever works for you. There's solutions all over the world. Some of them work, some of them don't. And it's a little bit scary to go around the world in other countries and try things out, because you may end up dying or losing all your money and still sick. With PPMS, it just keeps getting worse and worse. That's where I'm at. So I'm going to try to speak on here as much as possible. See if I could keep my thoughts together, or if I'm all over the place. I like politics because it makes sense. And there's many other things that make sense, but it's just shocking that we are losing supposedly smart people to the Democratic Party. So it makes me think, forget your school. You're not that smart. You're actually kind of dumb. Or no, are you getting paid? Because why would you root for the failure of the country? They got to be giving you a lot of money. Now, what about I set it up like this? No. This sucks. All right, I'll try to record like this. See how far I get.
Deranged for the sake of being Trump deranged. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air, right? It really is. Hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
All right, let's go with this real quick. See where we go. Look at Ilhan Omar. She should have been deported.
Welcome back. Congress remains deadlocked over funding the Department of Homeland Security after Senate Democrats blocked the bill to get the operations moving again as the shutdown stretches into now day 13. Democrats say they will oppose any additional funding of the department without stronger oversight of federal immigration officers. The impasse also stalling a Senate vote on the Save America Act, the president calling on Congress to pass the legislation, which requires proof of citizenship to vote during his State of the Union address Tuesday night.
Talk about common sense. Like in New York, you need at least 2 pieces of ID just to shovel snow and get paid for it. So why are we fighting against voting? All right, we're going to go with this setup. And then every time I want to react to a video, I could click on here. How does this look? Oh, fuck. Excuse my language. Coño.
Joining me now is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And is there anything that you can think of that could break this stalemate and open up the Department of Homeland Security?
No.
The Democrats need to realize that 35% of the Homeland Security budget is FEMA. And Maria, as you know, there was an ice storm that came through Tennessee, and now there is a big snowstorm that hit the East Coast, and people are needing FEMA. FEMA cannot do their job until the Democrats say, all right, we're going to go ahead and fund it. ICE is funded. ICE is going to be funded through 2029. We've already had that vote. But right now, they are keeping FEMA workers and TSA workers from a paycheck, and their services are needed. So, you know, they're not hurting.
Yeah.
They're not hurting ICE.
Right. No, I understand. But, you know, I mean, at this point, they want to see something in terms of movement on the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, what do you think can happen to actually get things moving again? Because of exactly what you just said, FEMA, as well as Secret Service. How about Secret Service is also impacted?
That's right. That is right. But see, the Democrats keep moving the goalposts. They want one thing, they want another thing. The White House has given them alternatives. You also had negotiations. You're not going to please them. This is more of their antics because, as they proved at the State of the Union, they are going to put illegal aliens before U.S. citizens when it comes to their decision.
And again, people are buying into that. Like, we live in stolen land, so why do we care? And it's like, yeah, we stole the land. It's our land now. What's your point? You know what? Forget this. I can't help it. Oh, yeah, let me use my leg. There you go. That's easier. Let's keep watching.
Making. I thought President Trump calling them out was incredibly powerful. And Maria, if you're not going to uphold and defend the Constitution and defend our nation against enemies, foreign and domestic, that is the oath that you take. Then all of this other stuff, it is Trump derangement syndrome. They have a terminal case of this. You're never going to make them happy. I think it is.
You know, Trump, I think, is the first politician I've ever seen say that side is crazy. Them over there, they're crazy on live television. That was classic, him saying that. They are crazy. There's no other words. There's no other way of saying it. But they are crazy.
It's time to keep putting these bills on the floor, calling the vote, and letting the American people see how out of control they are.
Well, I was there in the gallery, and I was sitting behind Erica Kirk and behind the mother of Irina, the woman who was stabbed to death on the train. And I just couldn't believe him. She was sitting there crying hysterically. And the president calls out Irina and tells her mother how saddened we are for the loss of her daughter. And they didn't stand for that either. And we were clapping for Irina's mother. She was in tears. We're all watching her, and the Democrats did not stand up. Wow.
It is astounding that they would not stand up and that they would not honor these individuals who have served our country, that they would not honor the loss of life. And the fact that they would not stand and say they're going to support citizens before they support illegal immigrants in this country. And I think it's a defining moment. I have heard from people all across Tennessee who have said, we get it. Now we understand what you're dealing with, because
maniacs,
making certain we have open borders, making certain anybody can come in our country, making certain that the ballot box is open to anybody who is on a visa and in the country that day and wants to go vote. That is their goal. It would destroy our country. The Save America Act is something we need to pass. We also need to complete this funding for DHS. It's the third time they have locked down DHS funding this Congress.
Yeah.
You're not going to make them happy, so let's just roll on.
Well, by the way, the funding of the entire government, putting DHS aside, but the funding of the rest of government, ends in September, at the end of September, right before the midterm elections. So you've got, guaranteed, chaos potentially, if in fact you've got another fight. But I was surprised that President Trump brought up insider trading. He called on Congress to pass the Stop Insider Trading Act during the State of the Union address. Watch this.
Everybody clapped.
Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here?
And of course, we know that Nancy Pelosi and her husband have a very significant portfolio. And the former speaker responded to the president, singling her out after the address. Watch this.
The inference he wants to draw is there was something wrong with that, which there wasn't. And if there was, people get prosecuted for it. For a long time now, we've been trying to pass this law. It doesn't have, now it has more support than it had before. And
Elizabeth Warren stood up and applauded. Elizabeth Warren stood and applauded tonight when the president talked about it.
Well, we all did. I did too.
Senator, what was your reaction to that?
Well, it is inappropriate for members of Congress to participate in the stock market. I just have been a supporter of this legislation for a long time, Maria. And there are some things you remove yourself from during public service.
Yeah.
This is one of them. It's an 80% issue, just like the Save America Act is.
There you have it. Everything is 80-20. And the Democrats keep choosing 20%. And we live in a country where majority rules. So I hope they don't get any vote out of this. All right. I think I'm going to take a break. I've been on here for 30 minutes. Not that easy to be on here for 30 minutes while battling PPMS. If you know, you know. If you don't, just give the video a like, a thumbs up. And I want to go take a look to see how this video turned out and what's the best streaming position I can take. With that said, see you in the next video. Peace. This is not working great.